So they're just the same muscles. It's just totally the same, right? You still see the line, and you still see the muscles above. Now we call them dorsalis trunci from the epaxials, right? But I mean, they're exactly the same, right? It's not even that different from the shark. So real obvious. So if I stuck a flag in there, it might say number 20, name this set of muscles in this organism, and you'd say dorsalis trunci. And then the next question might be, from which muscle did they evolve in the shark? And you'd say epaxials. Get it? So, not very difficult and totally obvious, right? I mean, you just couldn't miss that. Then you go to the cat, and these are called the backstraps muscles. That cat will probably work. So the backstraps are real familiar to anybody who goes deer hunting and elk hunting. And they're delicious. Filet mignon is it's all backstraps. Okay, so I couldn't find multifidus worth a crap last time. The reason is it's super deep. I was looking for it on the top. It's underneath everything. It's not a very good one to label. So a good one to label is that one right next to the spine. So I'm feeling the spine with my finger, and there's actually a ridge where the vertebrae are sticking up. The spinous processes are sticking up, and you can feel it. And the muscle right next to it is called spinalis. Well, that's easy because it's right along the spine. The next one out is very long, so it's called longissimus. And there it is. It's that muscle there that I'm pulling away from spinalis. So if I jammed a flag in there, that would be spinalis. That one would be longissimus. And then the most lateral one of those three is this one, and it's called iliocostalis. Well, you know your ilium is part of your pelvis, and costals are what bones?
Ribs.
Ribs. So that one just goes from your ilium up to your ribs in all of these vertebrates. So it's real easy. Again, iliocostalis. So again, spinalis, longissimus, iliocostalis, those are the back straps. You kill an elk, you cut those off, they're huge. You take them home, you slice them into steaks, they're awesome.
Agreed.
Okay, now if you wanted to find multifidus, which I'm not dying to, but if you wanted to find it, you would dig down to the rib cage, which you can feel down under here. Yeah, I'm not gonna find it, but it's underneath all of those. And it's multiple, just like my fingers spread out like that. It's a multi-part muscle underneath all those back straps. It's kind of a pain. If you're cutting up a deer or an elk, you're probably not even gonna take it, especially on a deer, because it's right on top of the ribs, and it's hard to actually get that meat off of the ribs because it's so flat. But it's this flat, multi-layered muscle right on top of the ribs, underneath all those others. That's probably part of it right there, that real flat muscle right there. Okay, so does it make sense that that comes from the epaxials on a shark? Yeah. I mean, you know, it certainly rectus abdominis didn't come from epaxials. These did. All right. Oh, that's handy. Okay, and then splenius comes from the anterior dorsalis trunci. So looking at that guy, you know, there's the back dorsalis trunci and then the front of it. It's all the same muscle. Well, the front of it has become this muscle here, which just pulls your head back. So there's this muscle right here, it's called splenius. And it's not terribly clear on here. It's not a great one to label, but there's just this muscle right about there. It shouldn't be that wide, but anyway, it's this muscle right there that just pulls your head back. And that's splenius. Does it make sense that that's from the front of that same muscle? Of course. Makes total sense. So that's easy. So then we get into the hypaxials in the shark. You've already seen them in the shark. They make the abs, external oblique, internal oblique, transversus abdominis, and rectus abdominis. Okay, now those are going to be really hard to find in a salamander just because the salamander is really small. If we had giant salamanders, that'd be awesome. They'd be really easy to find. But they already actually have all those layers, so let's see if I can actually find them. And these muscles, I bet you can't guess what they play a role in a land-living salamander. Now this one's not a land-living salamander. How do you know?
Gills.
He's got gills in the adult. But in land-living salamanders in the adults, what do you think these ab muscles help you do?
Keep your back support.
Back support is true. What else?
Breathe.
Breathing, yeah. These muscles help you breathe. And if you run for a while and then sit and hold your abs, you'll realize that's really true. Now the best way to find these is by the direction that their fibers run. And you can actually see that there are a bunch of muscle fibers running downward and inward, and that's always the way you find external oblique. And there's external oblique looking exactly like hypaxial musculature, except instead of running straight back like the hypaxials, it curves downward and inward. So there is external oblique that looks real. Okay, then in the middle, you can see some perfectly vertical fibers. What do you have that's perfectly vertical right in your middle, right next to your belly button? That's a muscle. Rectus abdominis. Mitch, can you see anything?
No.
Come here.
Sure. Where do I pop in there?
Okay, you see how these are coming at an angle and these are perfectly straight? See the fibers right there are straight and these are coming in at an angle to it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's external oblique, that's rectus abdominis. And they meet right there on the linea semilunaris, which is where, you know, Brad Pitt and other thin, really muscly people, myself, you know, you take your shirt off and you've got that big line on each side of your abs, your six-pack line. That's what causes it. It's where those two muscles meet. So rectus in the middle, external oblique on the side. Now the hard ones are going to be finding internal oblique and transversus. So if I just tear through, you can see that there's multiple layers. So it looks like the outer one, oh yeah, there's all three layers. So there's external oblique on the outside, and I didn't tear these layers apart, they're just naturally apart. External oblique to the outside, internal oblique in the middle, and a real thin transversus abdominis on the inside. So there actually are three little thin muscle layers. Now, am I really going to flag those on a salamander? Nah, they're just too damn thin. But on a cat, you should be able to see them all, and we found them on Yvonne's cat pretty well, on Leighton's cat pretty well. So you can find them all, and they're all there on the salamander, even that early, which is 450 million years ago, 400 million years ago. So they're all there. Yeah, they're some old muscles. All right, how do we know that's a male salamander? Swollen cloaca. All right, so, and then the external oblique on the salamander also gave rise to serratus ventralis and the diaphragm. Well, the diaphragm, you know, it's pretty easy. And serratus ventralis is also not too bad. There it is. You can really see it on this cat. It's this huge muscle. And what you look for, and this is the one I would flag on a test. If I was looking for a cat to flag serratus ventralis, I would use this one, because it's totally obvious there's this huge muscle attaching to the ribs, that muscle right there, and it's attached to the top of the scapula. And there's no question that that muscle is doing exactly that. And so that's how it actually suspends, right? It suspends the rib cage from the top of the scapula is what it's really doing. Like those pictures I kept showing you in class. So there I'm pinching serratus ventralis. So real clear. So I'm trying to give you an idea of why these muscles are worth learning too. And then of course the diaphragm, you just find the liver, and I'm not going to cut him open, but if I take my fingers and try to push them from the guts up into the lungs, they hit a muscle. And of course, that's the diaphragm. Everybody knows the diaphragm, right? So that one's easy. All right, then we get into cucularis on the shark. And that one, I need to see a picture to make sure I don't screw it up. But it should be pretty easy.